just beyond the edge of darkness. "The gate," Carver said hoarsely. Jerry unclenched his jaws and lit the second torch. The flare-up reflected from the blank windows ahead. "What about the women? What about the kids?" Jerry spoke jerkily, his eyes on the house. "There aren't any kids. What we saw was something else. The women are the same as the men, the same as the thing that killed Ed. Don't worry about them. Hold the cross in front of you, and for God's sake, hang on to it." The darkness swelled like a living thing. It swayed and clutched at the torches. Somewhere a high whining began, like a keening wind. There were sudden sounds from the house, banging and scramblings. Carver faltered. "On!" Jerry said savagely, and began to run. He touched his homemade crucifix to the wood of the porch, and with the other hand brought the torch down. Blue sparks jumped out at him. The dry wood hissed and blazed up furiously. A frightful scream rang out. There was the twinkle of breaking glass, and formless figures thudded to the ground and scuttled away on all fours, headed up the valley. Within minutes, the farmhouse was a mass of roaring flame. Jerry backed away from it. He saw Carver outlined against the glowing barn, which he had fired. They came together and hurried back to the road. There, they stopped to watch the pillar of flame and smoke boiling upward. "It worked," Carver said. Jerry nodded. "We can't kill them, but we can drive them out." "Women and kids," Carver said bitterly. "Did you see them things that came out?" "Yes." Jerry was drenched in sweat, and the torch trembled in his hand. "Let's get on to the next one, Mike." They went on to the neighboring farm, and to the one after that, while the shadows pulsed in an unholy turmoil. The night swarmed with malignant invisible forces that tried to blow the flame from their torches, that flayed them with naked sword of fear. There were hideous shapes, half seen. There were waves of terror, like a physical shock. There were puffs of odor, so rank they gagged. But they plodded through it, faces set, sweating and agonized, till halfway up the valley it came. Carver knew it first. His leathery face paled. His hands fumbled instinctively for the gun he was not carrying. Then Jerry said hoarsely, "Mike, did you hear that?" Carver nodded dumbly. Clearly now came the sound of those huge paws, paddling first on one side of them, then the other. Jerry clutched his cross till the rough edges bit deep into his hand. It seemed that his very life was bound up with the torch that now smoked and struggled to burn. If its feeble light went out, that meant extinction, black and final. Then he became aware that Carver was no longer beside him. He whirled, 10 yards behind. The other was bending down, scrambling frantically in the dust. "I dropped it," he shouted. "I can't find it." Jerry tried to reach him, but the other thing was quicker. A whirlpool of blackness engulfed Carver, blotted him out. Then Jerry was confronted by an unbelievable sight. A great, savage head towering over him, its eyes glowing readily and foam creaming over gigantic open jaws. Desperately, he shoved his cross straight at it. The thing spat and roared deafeningly. The thud of its paws shook the ground. It lashed out with monstrous claws that sliced his skin. Half stunned, Jerry kept lunging towards it, till finally his cross touched its coarse hide. There was a crackle of blue flame, a shriek that split the night, and the thing disintegrated into rolling clouds of bitter smoke. Jerry swayed. The hand that held the cross was numb and tingling. Like an automation, he turned, went back, and knelt beside the crumpled shape that had been Mike Carver. Then he rose, still carrying the feebly flickering torch, and plodded on. They met him as he was coming back. Watson, Henderson, Corcio, Miller, Hammond, and the rest. They had flashlights and guns and tear gas, and their faces were grim and desperate. "We found your car," they said. "We could see the flames from Wide Bend. What in the hell has been going on?" Jerry stared at them. He dropped the dead torch. One hand tried to put the cross back in his pocket. His face was black, his hair singed, his side wet with blood. "It's all over," he croaked. "They're gone. Dark Valley is free again." Big Joe Merkelos was the first of them. He appeared at the Rocky Mountain Trust Company one day, cash in hand. The charm of him, his flashing smile, the easy strength in his big body were persuasive recommendations. But the company's appraisal scarcely got that far. Wasn't he the first buyer they had ever had for that suburban real estate fiasco, Hidden Acres? End of The Invaders. Recorded by Blair Buckland, Lakehead Faculty of Education.